Should be good. Perfect. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for having me today. Coming to talk about the hottest topic in the state right now. First, I want to give you a little background. I'm going to kind of try to blow through a lot of the presentation because if you have questions, that's where the real meat and potatoes will be. I'm going to go over who we are, what we're doing, where we're going, and finish it up with questions and answers. First of all, who are we? We fall under the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. So we work for Taylor Caswell, and we are the Office of Workforce Opportunity. We manage funds, Workforce Investment Opportunity Act funds that help provide training to various programs that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. The other thing that we do is that we also manage by paying for each of the NH Works offices located throughout the state. So the 12 employment security centers, most commonly known, we pay and manage those sites, the 12 full-time sites along with 2 satellite sites around the state. And then we also manage the funds. This is our team, an incredible team. I actually just transitioned into this team about a year ago. I work for a young man named Joe Doran. Incredible young man to work with, but our team, from Laura from financial, to Lisa and Barbara, to administrators who administrated the programs, really incredible team. We also have somebody or a group called the SWIB, the State Workforce Innovation Board. It's made up of individuals that have to be nominated by the governor's office to sit on this board to help drive workforce related issues. So as we come up with topics of discussion or issues that we want to get out in front of them, we have these local officials, mostly that we try to target as business leaders, to kind of help push ideas. One of the biggest ones that we're pushing right now is eligibility. A lot of times when programs are created, they create eligibility requirements. As a result, some of these eligibility requirements are extremely difficult to meet for the average person. As a result, fewer and fewer people are able to take advantage of some of the training opportunities we have. So we've been in discussion through the SWIB, through our political leaders, to try to get that changed. And we are making some good progress with that. But the SWIB is kind of our sounding board, and they kind of help us get to where we want to be. A vision, this is what we came up with. Ultimately, I want to currently meet the needs of any business in the state, period. I don't really care how I do that. If a business has an issue, I want to be able to wrestle with it. And as we kind of move forward, we understand that as we advocate and promote the kinds of programs that we have, we make our community stronger. And when we make our community stronger, we make our county stronger. And when we have a strong county, we have a strong state. When you hear NH Works, I actually worked for the state for a year and a half before I figured this out. Because you hear NH Works and you never know who makes up NH Works. We are a part of it through Business and Economic Affairs, the Department of Employment Securities, which handles Social Security unemployment benefits, the Department of Education, which includes adult education, the U.S. Department of Labor, where we get a lot of our funds and our resources, the Department of Health and Human Services that covers healthcare and other important issues, as well as the community college system and Southern New Hampshire Services. Now, the small one at the bottom, Southern New Hampshire Services, is really that organization around the state of New Hampshire. When people really fall on hard times, they need help with training, they need help with daycare, they need help with heating oil, they need help, period. That's the group that most people go to. You just don't know it. But it's all located at every one of our NH Works location sites. So when you hear NH Works, think of a group of people working for you. In fact, I am the chair of what we started about 6 months ago called the Interagency Business Team, which is a makeup of any one key person in each one of those organizations that we meet and focus on improving our processes internally. So what are we doing? We break down WIOA funds into 3 different areas, 2 of which one deals with youth, which is being currently managed by My Turn and JAG, and that way we cover the entire state. And then the other areas is adult. When we're starting to look at youth, we also have to kind of go where we have people who can manage the program. So let me put it more of an example. We have a kid that is in high school that wants to become a firefighter. They're going to have to go through some type of EMT kind of course to kind of get their certificate to become kind of almost like a paramedic. And then they're going to have to do firefighter 1 and 2. Both of those courses cost money. All 3 of those courses cost money. Through the WIOA youth program, there's $6,500 that goes to helping that youth if they qualify for the training. We want to spread, we're trying right now to get what we call a decision loophole, where if the town or the community can show through Department of Labor that it's a critical in-demand occupation, meaning it's an occupation within the town that is critical to the infrastructure and is currently not being met, then we could pay for this for anybody who wants to do it. So if the youth currently meets the eligibility requirements, we can get them started on this training even while they're in high school so they transition into a career path. Getting people jobs, and just for the sake of getting them a job, is no longer the solution. We have to find jobs that lead to careers. So even if you want to start at Dunkin' Donuts, we want you to think about how do you start at Dunkin' Donuts and how do you own a Dunkin' Donuts. We want you going down that kind of path. The other program that we work with is adult. A lot of things transition very quickly. Most of the jobs in 2030, and I would say like 60 to 70%, have not been created yet. So in 2030, which is not that far away, we will see an influx of jobs that do not currently exist because things are changing that quickly. So as a result, we have to be able to identify where those trainings are available, create them if necessary, by working with our business partners to make sure that that training is available. As these adults either drop out of careers that really aren't going anywhere, or continue to come out of recovery, or in other areas where they're just not moving forward in life, this also has $6,500 that's attached to the training that we can get people involved in new careers. The biggest thing that I found, especially in working with adults, is some adults never thought that they had the ability to do more than what they were currently doing. I'm always amazed at how many people I run into who have an extreme low self-esteem and don't understand that. I mean, I'll give you a quick example about me. I graduated toward the bottom of the list when I came to high school. It wasn't until I joined the Coast Guard that I learned I had dyslexia. And as a result, it made classes difficult. As I started to understand how dyslexia worked, and I started to learn that typing, what a saving grace, because you hit a P and it looks like a P. It doesn't really look like a P to me, but it's still a P. So typing was incredible. And I built my typing speed from 20 words a minute up to about 100 words a minute. So I've gotten it to the point where I can type as fast as I can think. So therefore, that one adaptive piece of equipment, which I call a typewriter or a computer, helped me to make that change. Well, when you go from being a CD student to all of a sudden now I'm in the Coast Guard and I'm graduating the top 5 of everything, it changes your perspective and it changes your opportunity. So we try to introduce various different accommodations or skills to address some of the disabilities that people had growing up that were just never identified, or learning disabilities that were identified growing up, or helping to overcome some of the abusiveness that they had to kind of live through, which is rewarding. Dislocated worker. I don't know whether you heard about it over the weekend. Keene had a fire that burned down the ale house and the Concord or the Domino's, along with a I think ice cream parlor.
Yeah.
And dislocated 7 people or 7 apartments. Now, another part of my job is the rapid response coordinator. The Department of Labor pays us to go out to address any closure of 25 or more. Now, the Ale House and Domino's falls below that. But one of the things I learned in the Coast Guard is that when people are hurting or people in need, you need to go where the problem is. So we've already dispatched a group of people to reach out to them to say, okay, first of all, as you file for unemployment, we want you to understand, regardless of what your eligibility was, you're now automatically eligible for the dislocated worker program, which is that $6,500, which also comes with an additional $1,000 in incremental costs. So if I have daycare, my car goes kaplooey, or if I have tires, like this morning driving here, I think most of the people that were doing 35 and 40 on the main highway were probably doing that because they didn't trust their tires. So as we can make these kinds of improvements to their personal lives to get them going as far as upskilling themselves, they can then transition out of lower end jobs and kind of move up the food chain of career fields. What we do for the rapid response is I bring in an entire team comprising of each one of those agencies that make up the NH Works offices and introduce them to a local team, individual people that they can call if they need something. One of the things, and pardon my expression, but pisses me off, is when somebody gives me a website or a phone number that leads to an answering machine. When you are in crisis, my work just burned to the ground. I'm no longer able to live in the house because it's gone. You need to talk to a person, and we're committed to making sure that you have a single point of contact to respond to. Job match system is one of those programs that you've heard about, is basically our state response to take all of the different job postings around the state and put them onto one location. This is managed by our Employment Securities Office, and we constantly ask businesses to please put the information in there. In addition to having the job match system, we also have employment service representatives that can work one-on-one with the business. That's also attached to the community college. So we can either just look at filling the position, or we could be looking at an emerging position where we have to do some homework to start putting coursework together. So in a combination of on-the-job training that could be provided, or pre-apprentices coming out of high school, we can help prepare people a lot better by utilizing the job match system and some of the network that's connected to it. The other program I wanted to come in and talk to you about is windmills. We've all heard about the kind of, what do they call that? Critical race theory, and how that training, there's people who are pro and against it. Well, I can tell you the windmills is probably the most inclusive type training that you can come across, because what it focuses on is how we treat each other in the workplace and how people treat each other based on their disabilities. Now, one of the things I've discovered in my 56 years is, I know more people with disabilities than I have them. And they don't get better, they get worse. So it's one of those things that in a workplace that everybody can relate to. However, regardless of what your disability is, if you have an ability, it overshadows the disability. If I can throw a knuckleball, it doesn't matter, I can't throw a fastball. My knuckleball is worth some money if I could throw it in the major leagues. It's a slow pitch, but it's incredibly hard to hit. We all have different skills and abilities, and Windmills tries to take people into really just addressing the skills and abilities as it relates to work, and leaving the rest of what we think about individuals, where they're from and what they look like, just out of the equation. And that's really been helpful. When I retired from the Coast Guard, I went to work for vocational rehabilitation. And I worked there for 12 years before making the jump over to business and economic affairs, where I felt I could do more good. It took me 11 years to get this program into the state, and I'm glad to see that it's still up and running. Job training fund, also called Work Invest. Now here's the deal. If you're a business and you're providing training to 10 or 15 people, let's say you're working with the community college and you want to get these people trained OSHA certified. The business is willing to pay $50,000 to cover the cost of this. Through this fund, we will pay half. Why would we want to pay half? So that they could put more people through the training. Well, if they put more people through the training, what does that do? It makes them more valuable to the company and allows them to earn a higher wage. And also when the business invests in the individual, they're more likely to stay, which reduces turnover. This is a really zero-sum game that has side benefits. The community college makes money off the training. The individual that takes the training becomes more skilled, therefore more valuable to the business. And the business is able to do something else with that extra half. Some of them have actually used it as incentives to complete the training and then pay bonuses at the end of the year for those that either meet or exceed expectations as a result of the training. It's a good program, and unfortunately, it's been very heavily underutilized. I went through the rapid response. This is my actual main job, is to deal with this. And most of what I'm seeing in the state right now is the under 25. So if I was the typical state worker and I'm looking at only groups of 25 or more, I don't really care about team. And some states have that approach. When I took the job, I asked my boss to let's change that. I don't care if it's one person or 100. We should be able to put a team in the field. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to pull an entire team to assist that one individual. I can tell the one individual about the program, and we even created a video that we had actual production quality during COVID. If we would have had to pay for this during normal healthy time, this would have been more of like a $20,000 to $30,000 video. We got it for under 10 and then some. But what it allows people to do is to go to our website, click on this link, and watch the entire rapid response presentation that we would do in person. But it also ends up giving them my phone number at the very bottom. So if they need something, they can call me directly. I can't tell you how many times my work phone will ring during the weekend, and I'll see that it's a number from an area where I've heard of a fire or something like that, or a closure, and I just answer the call. Most of my calls on rapid response take less than 5 or 10 minutes. Most people are looking for someone to talk to in a direction. Once you give them that, they're capable of moving forward. Workshare program is something that most people don't know about, but if a business is in trouble, let's say that I'm in the construction industry and I provide lumber and things like that. Well, a lot of the goods aren't making it to their destinations in a reliable time. And as a result, some people are forced to do temporary layoffs. So if I had 10 trucks worth of goods coming in at any given week, and now I'm down to 5, I'm stuck with the possibility of laying these people off. This program's allowed them to be kind of laid off, but also still employed, in which the state then pays through our unemployment funds to keep them employed until things pick back up. This is a temporary measure, and we've learned that just keeping using the unemployment benefits in this way saves us from an actual person losing their job flat out. And then and allows the business and the workers to kind of work together to find a common solution to kind of keep things on an even keel at work. Job fairs, pre-COVID, I couldn't get the office of OIT. I couldn't get them to do anything virtually online. Couldn't do it. COVID allowed us to kind of move forward, allowed us to do job fairs virtually. And if you've never been one, you ought to check it out. I mean, it's really kind of cool on how they can set this up. So we do them on a regular basis around the state. I'm also working with a veteran organization. We're going to be doing veteran-specific job fairs around the state in the coming years. Commissioner Kapadas and Rich Labors, incredible champions for us in this department. But these job fairs, we have them ongoing all the time, and we constantly recruit businesses to take part in this. So where are we going? Our team is literally blowing it up and starting over to some degree. We're looking at our website. We didn't like it. We thought it was kind of overwhelming. We didn't think it had the right type of information. And the one thing it didn't have was a direct point of contact. We want to make sure that anytime somebody looks at our website, they don't get a 1-800 number, or they don't get an info.@email.com to send it to. We want a real person at the other end. We're looking at case management systems. So if we're managing those WIOA funds, we not only want to look at how many people are going to the training, we want to look at how many people are actually sitting down at the NHWorks office talking about the training. How many are our counselors meeting on a weekly, and if not broken down daily, monthly basis, to see if the pipeline is going to continue to thrive. I can actually take somebody who's actually still working, and if they're looking to upskill their positions, I can get them into the adult youth program, either one of those, and they could actually take training while they're in. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that we can do. We're definitely working with our partners more. I'm hoping to have, I've been with the state for 17 years this April. And one of the things I do is I like to work smarter than harder. So every time I found a resource, I created one short little paragraph with the point of contact person that I could contact when I need help. That way I could make a referral and get that instant gratification of handing that off to somebody, knowing that my counterpart will be taken care of. We have that pretty much done, and we're looking to turn that into a business resource online. So I'm hoping that by hopefully May or June, that'll be full online, so everybody will have access to that information. A lot of people like to hold on to information, to kind of control it for themselves, to bring power to them. I want to make sure that it's out there so that when people need it, it's there. We're looking at expanding our grant capabilities. We don't go after every grant. There was one grant that would have been worth about $10 million worth of additional training. Everybody says, why wouldn't you go through that? Well, we still have 8 to 10 million that's not being spent. And when you start to look at grants, if I start taking additional money and don't spend it, it hurts us going forward. So we first have to be responsible with the money we have, get the community colleges back up to full strength, get people used to taking training and upskilling again, and getting them going forward. Let's keep the conversation going. If any of you have questions, or if you have other people that have questions, you have my direct contact information. Feel free to use it. Whenever I go to rapid responses, I ask people to please give me a call. But if you want to struggle with something for a couple of weeks or a month or a year, feel free to do that. Or you can just pick up the phone and I can do what I can to help you. If two of us are working together, nobody can stand against us. Any questions? Peg, I saw your hand first.
Yeah. How do you address literacy issues? I was a human resource manager for a small manufacturing firm, and I had a class one time where I just handed out these little booklets to people to read, and it was very clear to me that they were not able to read and understand what they were being presented. And this wasn't the people that were declared illiterate. They just, their reading skills were so poor.
So we have, through the Department of Education, they have the adult program, which addresses that specifically. They've done a really good job at that, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't make those referrals, and especially with literacy, it's a hard thing to get people to admit that they have trouble reading. I mean, true story, I didn't read my first full book in high school until I was in the 11th grade. And it wasn't until Debbie Russell, my English teacher, made me do it and really understood that I had trouble reading, that I was able to address that. So adult education, and I could make an easy referral for that. Greg? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I have one other question.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a role for the recent immigrants coming to this country to help relieve the workforce problem?
Yes and no. Some coming from Afghanistan through the refugee program, and others coming through the refugee program, which means if you stay where you're at, you're going to die. These are people who are very highly motivated to get back into the country and come with some skills. However, some of the immigrants coming over the border do not have skills. The amount of money that's going to be necessary to train them is going to be challenging. And also the even bigger problem is childcare, because most of the people that have been brought in have dependents. And I don't know whether you know this or not, but to have an infant in daycare costs more than college right now. Yeah. So there are some positives and negatives to that, but bringing in additional immigrants is not going to fix our workforce problem, because the businesses in New Hampshire need skilled workforce. And unfortunately, most of them are not going to be able to do that. However, there are some, especially in the refugee program. It's just a matter of getting them through training and getting them licensed in the state. Yes, sir.
There's just two questions. The first question is, how do you work with high schools?
A lot of different ways. The way I like going through it is the Career and Technical Education Center and working through those, because quite honestly, if you're going to go to college, it really shows that you're going to leave the state for the most part. But Career and Technical Ed, we want to be able to keep the brain drain here. So what we do is we work in getting them connected to businesses, getting them into pre-apprentice to apprenticeship programs, and really investing in them and their licensing here in New Hampshire. That's honestly the best way that I have seen to do that. But the other thing is to be able to connect that student to the industry of their choice, which is why it's important for me to know as many different industry leaders as possible. And not only know them, but understand that when I send Becky or Joey their way, that I expect them to talk to them. And quite honestly, if they don't, I remove them from the list or I pay them a visit, and I want to know why. So CTE centers is really the best way.
And the second question is, you mentioned about the money funds for the firefighting.
Yep.
So one of the things here with Makerspace, which is in this building, is they have a welding program.
Yep.
So are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
Is there money that comes from your program to help support that?
Not necessarily the Makerspace, but if there's training connected to it.
There is training. So there's training that we basically paid the funds for, I think, 3 kids to go through the welding program.
So here's,
it was like 5,000 a piece.
so to have training paid for by this program, they just need to be registered in our Insight program,
Okay.
which just means that we pay the school directly.
Okay.
So you can connect with me and I can tell you how to do that. That's not challenging. And of course, it falls under that 500 or $6,500 threshold. And welders, once you become really good at it, you can name your own price and work whatever hours you really want. If you want to work 80 to 100 hours a week, you got it. If you only want to do 40, they're grateful. I understand. Yeah, go ahead.
Just on that same subject, in terms of the Makerspace, which we started
Yep.
about 5 years ago here in Peterborough. But we're talking about our strategy there all the time. What should we know about you that should be a component part of our strategic actions in the Makerspace?
Well, anything that's related to workforce, if we can tie it back into whether training here or training at a community college in particular or a professional organization, we can look at getting that put into the system and actually covered. The other thing that we could look at.
Put it in our equipment and stuff like that. You don't
Well,
support
I know,
that kind of-
no, we don't. We can't buy equipment and stuff like that, but I do know businesses who'd be willing to donate it. So there's a lot of things that we're able to pull off because our business partners are so generous. And if you have a business in this immediate area that's looking for workforce, they're more than likely to donate items if necessary. And sometimes asking locally and asking from the state's perspective could be helpful.
Would you help them with the business contact?
With the business contact, yeah, I'll reach out to anybody anywhere.
Right.
I have no shame when it comes to that. And if they don't talk to me, I'll literally go in their office and sit there. I mean, Admiral knows that I was a retired Coast Guard chief, and that's what we do. We get our way. So, well, and the reason is because we're not doing it for ourselves. You know, you're taught to be a very unselfish and really focus on the need of the people around you. When you're advocating for somebody else, that's a powerful position to be coming from and almost impossible to defend against. You can't turn around and say, well, you're just being self-serving. No, I leave and I never see you again. But the person that I advocated for continues to thrive and grow. Yes, sir.
Have you had any interface with the efforts for finding affordable housing
Yes.
in this area? Because I met George Hensley, the mayor of Keene,
Yeah.
over the holidays, and I think he's having some kind of task force run by the governor to try to attract businesses here. One of the real problems of attracting new businesses to this area is that they can't find affordable housing for
Yeah.
the workforce.
So when I first came on board with Business and Economic Affairs, before I took this job, about 3 or 4 years ago now, I did a study around the state because I told Commissioner Caswell when he was coming into housing was a major issue. So he wanted me to go out and find out what the information was, and I brought that information back to him. Since then, the commissioner has done a lot to really push and drive this. But what I will tell you from my travels around the state, workforce housing's biggest hurdle is the local town control. Most every time that you'll see a housing development, when they hear workforce housing, they think subsidized housing. And we need to get people away from that. I believe that like we did in Bedford, if we can take 122 unit and then set aside maybe 5 for subsidized housing, which could go to a senior citizen, or it could go to the manager of the Dunkin' Donuts, but actually make it so that you include people who can pay a fair market price to making it affordable to subsidized, you'll have a better balance. But workforce housing is a major issue right now. And unfortunately, we can dump all the money that we want into it. And there is, the governor's office, I know, has put some money toward it so that if a business construction company wants to take this on, they can eliminate some of the risk that they can run into and therefore have a better chance at building. A lot of times you'll see throughout the state when a project has been announced, immediately there's a group of people who are attacking it, trying to stop it. And that costs money. And when the cost is too much, they pull out because they're only going to invest so much time and money into trying to see something work. So if a town can kind of set something up and say, no, we're all in agreement. Here's the planning approval for this. This is what we want. This is what we want it to look like. And this is how many units we want. It makes it easier for a builder to come in and give you that. But housing is a big issue. Yeah, and unfortunately, we are out of time. Again, I'd be more than happy to handle these conversations offline or at another time. Or if you want to just invite me back and we just talk about this again, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Great.
Thank you.
I have a question. What time did you leave?
A little after 6. Yeah, it was a little. You know, it's funny, at a rapid response, once I told somebody that this was my